Today we're talking about hiding purchases from your spouse. So if you do this, you need to watch this. Or if you have a spouse who does this, you probably need to talk about it together, right?
Yeah, for sure. This is one of those things. We were actually working on the book, and this came up while we were working on the book, which is coming out in February. Get ready.
Can't
But
wait.
anyway, have you seen those memes where it's like, basically you just hiding the FedEx guy shows up and you're like taking that package and hiding it in your closet before your husband sees it, before he comes home or whatever.
Yeah.
I've seen this a lot. I have a friend who talks about it, and it's hilarious to me because I feel like
Because
to
it's so
some
common.
degree we've all maybe done that a little bit.
Probably. Probably. So we put up a poll on Instagram. If you're not following us, go follow us over there at SeedTime. But we put up a poll on our stories asking people who's done this, and it's more than half the people who
Totally.
responded. And I know some of them are lying, but
For
so
sure.
at least more than half the people have
Or
done
maybe they
this.
just don't know what we mean. Maybe they're not
Maybe
lying,
that's
but
it. Maybe
maybe
that's
that's
it.
it. But anyway, we got to talking about this, and I did this hardcore for a while with a Starbucks addiction. Okay, so I would basically go get my drink every single day. Sometimes I would pay cash, so you really wouldn't know. But I knew that Bob was seeing the bank statement, so I don't know what I was actually thinking. But I was like, if he doesn't see the cup, then there won't be a conversation about it. And I even remember when we would be out because I got one every single day, guys. That's what happens. I think they put something in
They put something in
Starbucks
there. What do they
that
put in
it
there?
makes you really have to have it. I
Yeah,
don't know,
we're
but
gonna
it
get down the
really,
line. It's gonna be like the cigarette
oh,
companies,
yeah.
like when you find out,
There's,
wait a minute, it's addictive.
yeah, it's addictive. But
Yeah.
anyway, so we'd be out, running errands on a Saturday, and I'd be like, "Can I have a Starbucks?" And he's like, "What? What?" Like, but I didn't want to talk about it.
Okay.
It was kind of a problem I had, but also I was just like, I don't need to hear about it.
Okay, but I don't know, like, and I have not always been a perfect spouse. I don't know if I
Not
was,
always, but you are now.
but now I am. I don't know if I was overbearing at any point that helped make you feel like you couldn't talk about it.
I'm sure there was
I'm
an
sorry
element
if
of
I
that.
was, but but you had more going on than just that, right? It wasn't like I was screaming at you every time you bought a
No,
Starbucks,
for
right?
sure, for sure.
Some
I don't think
fights,
you
right?
ever screamed at me, and I
Yeah,
don't
that's
even
right.
think that it was ever really like, I don't think you were ever really that upset. For us, we are kind of on the health, whatever, what would you call
The
that?
healthy food spectrum.
Healthy
Is
food
that a spectrum
spectrum,
that we
sure.
can be on?
And Bob would be like, that stuff is terrible for you. He's like, you shouldn't. And then I thought, well, I'm spending all my money on this. Even if you didn't project any of this, which I honestly don't remember, I felt so much judgment for spending my money on $6 at Starbucks every day,
Yeah.
because
Well, and at
it
this
ain't cheap.
point, yeah, we were pretty tight financially too at this point,
No, no, no,
right?
no. This was later when
This is when we were super rich later on.
we were super rich. No, but when it was like this was coming out of, I know we've talked about before, our spending money. This
Yeah.
was coming out of my spending money. So this wasn't directly affecting him,
Well, and
but
this is a tangent we should take.
hair
Yeah,
is
if you
weird.
don't have your hair looks great, honey.
Thanks.
If you don't have if you're married and you don't have personal spending money, if you have all your money in one big bucket, like please, you your marriage is going to be so
This is our
much
number
better.
one marriage
It
tip,
is going to be
really.
so much better if you create separate categories. Really, what you need to do is you need to get a real money
You need the
method
full
and
on
do
budget.
that.
It's so good.
But even if you don't do that, just break out separate spending categories for each of you. Like we did this
Yes.
when we first did this 15 years ago, it changed our marriage. Like
Mm-hmm.
the number of fights that we went from having to not having, it was mind blowing just because of this
Right.
insanely simple thing of breaking out two buckets. This is Linda's money. She can do whatever she wants with, and I don't care what she does with it,
And I
and
was
vice
spending
versa.
it all on green tea frappuccinos with a quarter of the ice.
We have a visitor.
Uh-oh.
All right, we took care of the visitor.
Where
So we're back in action now.
Yes. My Starbucks addiction was coming out of my separate category. So
So
it
I didn't
wasn't
really care.
as if he was really affected by this. Like it wasn't like I was taking our rent money
Yeah.
and spending it
Yeah.
on my green tea frappuccino. But
Why don't you
I
tell
could
them what it was
tell
like? So Linda, this is really funny. If anybody worked at Starbucks, and she would get a green tea frappuccino with not half, but 1/4 of the ice.
I was like, they would make it with light ice, and I was like, they took out 2 ice cubes. I want this a quarter of the ice because it was more like a milkshake.
Okay,
It's
but
so
well,
good.
like, okay, the reason
So
this
it
is a
didn't
fun
water it
tangent.
down.
This is a fun
tasted
tangent.
so much better.
So yeah, so she would do this, get a quarter of the ice, but then they would feel obligated to fill it up. And so what that meant is they just basically dumped more of this simple sugary syrup in there.
Or milk. So yeah, it was super sugary.
And you loved
really
it. It was
good.
great.
I loved it.
Like
But
liquid
anyway.
fudge. Like liquid fudge, like
Except
that
for
intense.
it was the matcha. Yes.
Yeah.
But anyway, that's neither here nor there. The point is, I was trying to hide this from him. And so even though there's a part of it that is really kind of funny, I think because it's so relatable, I started realizing, is this a problem that I'm hiding something from my husband? This was the question I started to ask myself.
It's a good question to ask.
Yeah. I just was wondering, if I'm hiding this from him, would it be easy to hide other things from him? And how would I feel if he was hiding things from me? So I just started going down this path just because I felt like I wasn't really, being honest with him. And maybe there was something in there that I was just getting convicted, right, by the Holy Spirit. It's like, maybe this isn't the best approach. That was kind of how I got to this conclusion of like, maybe I should just stop hiding this. But then as I start going down this path and start trying to just be a little bit more honest and open and not care, like honestly, I was just trying to not care if he saw the container. But what I started to realize about myself is that I was actually super shameful about it. And I think this is the part where maybe it doesn't
Shameful about
talked about much.
About the addiction, about the spending, like what specifically?
I think it was just something that I felt like I was caught doing, which is silly because he's my husband, he's not my parent. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Where maybe it was just this trigger of, if he catches me, I'm going to get in trouble. And maybe it was because it was something I knew I didn't like about myself. Like I knew, I could hear his words and I knew he was right, that I was like, this is not the best thing for me. I could see it in my body where I was like, this is not great for me. I was getting a ton of migraines, and every time I'd get a migraine, I was like, oh man, is he going to bring it up? I'm pretty sure that I had an excessive amount of migraines due to this addiction. I already knew it, but it was a problem that I did not know how to change or solve. And so the more it got brought up, the worse I felt about it. Does that make sense? So it was just like this whole ball of all these different things wrapped up in shame.
Yeah. All right. So from your perspective about me, what did I do right? Did I do wrong in any of these situations? What would you have done differently? Or what would you coach someone like me to do and to handle it?
I did tell you at one point, I was like, please just stop talking to me about this. I think it took me years to get to the point where I just said, please stop talking to me about this. I understand. I just don't know how to change.
So what's funny about this is I've had a nail biting habit for a long, long time. And I've come into the same thing where there's seasons where I fight it and try to break it. Mm-hmm. But then I'm really working on trying to break this habit or addiction or whatever we'll call it, where it's like, I want your support. I want your reminders. I want. And then there's other times where it's like, I'm just too.
He wears like a shock collar. But it's a bracelet. It's true, though.
We could talk about that another time. It's called Pavlok for anybody who wants to look it up.
It's created for breaking habits.
Yeah. But anyway.
It's an atomic habit. I'm seeing that.
But there's these things, there's times where it's like, I'm in the fight. Yes, I want the support. And there's other times where it's like, I'm not in the mindset, the frame of mind to fight that battle right now. Mm-hmm. So I don't need you to
make me feel bad about it.
Keep bugging me about this thing.
Because it's not helping me change. It's just making me angry. And it's just making me frustrated. It's making me feel more shameful or whatever the emotion is.
Yeah. Right? So that to me, based on what we're saying, that sounds like a topic for conversation between husband and wife.
Yes.
Where are you on this spectrum? Like, are you trying right now or not?
Yeah.
And it's like no guilt or shame if you're not, but I just need to know, how can I help you and support you? Right?
Right. Yes. And I do think that you were good about that. And I think once I finally came to that, where it was like, I just needed to know, like, I can't do this on my own. I'm not in a place where I even really want to try. I know it's wrong. And that's where I'm at. Like, can you please just drive to Starbucks and let me get my drink?
Yeah. So I think it's worth talking about how you got out of this, which is God's grace.
It's
I
God's
mean, really?
grace. It's 100% God's grace, because I was literally walking down the street on my way to get one. We came to visit downtown Franklin. We stayed in a cute little Airbnb in downtown Franklin so I could walk into the downtown area, and they had a Starbucks right there.
Franklin, Tennessee, for anybody who's curious.
Franklin, Tennessee.
That's
yes,
where we live now.
It's great. You should totally come visit or come live here.
We don't need anybody else to live here. There's too many people here.
Anyway, so I was on my way walking down, and I don't understand what, but I felt this thing inside me go, just don't get one. And I was like, okay. And I'm not kidding. From that moment on, I just it has not had a hold on me the way it did before.
So God broke the thing off of you, basically.
Literally just broke it. And I prayed for years. Like, I don't want these. Please make it so I don't want them. But I lacked the willpower to actually quit.
Yeah.
So anyway, I think this is just, it's a whole bunch of different things. And I do remember at one point you told me, do you know how much you're spending a month on Starbucks? Do you know that it's this much a day, which is this much a week, which is this much a month, and this much a year? And I was like, oh my gosh, are you kidding me? Like, yeah, it definitely added this, well, what can I do instead? It gave me some incentive to try and think of some other methods.
Having the information.
Like
being able to see what's actually happening.
Yeah.
Clearly.
And this is kind of how we talked about it in the book. Yeah. But as we were talking through more of it, the shame component is what I feel like is such a... Yeah, what I got from this is that there's actually freedom from this. And hiding it is keeping the freedom and the healing from happening in your heart. And so I honestly didn't get to the point where I had this thing break off of me until I was very open with Bob about, all right, I'm going to go get my Starbucks. Okay, I'm going to go get Starbucks today. You know, whatever. Can you take me, or we're going together? Can we go stop over there?
Yeah, that's a really interesting point that, like, you had to admit it, acknowledge it, be honest about the thing, that had to happen before the breakthrough kind of came. Yeah. That's really interesting.
Yeah.
I never thought about it that way.
And I do appreciate that when I would say, just leave me alone about it, you really would leave me alone. Because you knew it was a problem. Like, you could see it from the outside. You know what I mean?
Like, I cared about you. Like, the financial component, again, like I said, it was your spending money. So I just didn't care as much. It wasn't affecting our household finances as much. But yeah, I cared about you. Like, anything that we're addicted to, like, is not good. We shouldn't have any other masters other than Jesus.
Addicted to Jesus.
You know? So, yeah, so I want to live where nothing is in control. I'm not a slave to anything.
Yes.
And, want the same for you.
Absolutely. So, yeah, I think anyone listening to this, if you're married, or even if you're not and you have this problem, I think it would be great to go and open up to someone about this, or preferably your spouse. But also, if you are the person who someone comes to you, have a ton of grace, as much as you can possibly muster, to be able to just hear them and not have to, ride their case about it or get on them about it. Or every time you see them doing something, it's like, oh, well, there you go again. You said you didn't want to do that anymore, and here you go. There's a way to just, even when you are biting your nails, I'll just kind of do this sometimes and then take my hand away. Because sometimes you don't want the help. And I think it's okay that sometimes you're not in that place. And also that you can just pray and ask God for breakthrough in this area, right?
Yeah, it was just, I forgot what book it was in. I was reading a book yesterday, and the woman used an illustration about communicating hard messages that, I'm like, that's a great illustration. And she basically said, you can take a brick and write a message on it and throw it through someone's window, or you can write them a letter and send it to it. It's like, you can communicate a message both ways, but they're received very, very differently. And the outcome of each action is going to be very, very different. And so, and I think we all know this if we're married, like, having grace, communicating difficult things in a kind tone works so much better than anger and frustration and everything else. But yeah.
Yeah. There you go.
Write a letter. Don't throw a brick through a window. All right. So if you haven't left a review for the podcast, please do that. That'd be awesome. We would be greatly blessed by that. And then if you come to Franklin, let us know. And
We'll give you our recommendations.
well, yeah, we'll point you
Don't
to
go
some
to
great
Starbucks,
restaurants
go to
and stuff like
Frothy
that.
Monkey instead. It's so much better.
Or Barista Parlor is a
Barista
winning,
Parlor.
not in
That's in
Franklin,
Nashville,
but
though.
great coffee shop. Anyway, all right, that's all for now. We're going to stop rambling, and we'll see you in the next one.
Bye.